The receipts were already sitting there. That's the part nobody wants to sit with. While the entire internet spent weeks arguing about whether Claressa Shields broke up a happy home, the real story was hiding inside a single photograph from July 6, 2024. A photograph she posed for, a photograph she smiled in. A photograph where the two-time Olympic gold medalist is standing next to Papoose wearing another man's engagement ring on her finger. Read that again. The night she claimed she met Papoose for the very first time, didn't know him from a can of paint, didn't even know he was a rapper, she was wearing Tony Rich's ring. And that one detail, that one glint of jewelry, quietly detonates every single interview she has done since. Because here's the identity disruption nobody on that podcast circuit had the nerve to say out loud. The question was never, did she break up a happy home? That question is a decoy. The real question, the one this entire video is built around, is how a relationship that Claressa Shields swears began as an innocent handshake in Newark in July somehow required 6 months of nightly phone calls before a December exposure that came only 5 months later. The math doesn't work. The math has never worked. And when we get to that 6-month breakdown later in this video, and I promise you, we are getting there, with the calendar on the screen, you are going to understand why every version of this story she's told collapses under its own weight. And the stakes here are not small. For her, this is reputation, endorsement money, and a Hollywood movie rollout that got swallowed whole by scandal. For the culture, this is about whether a decorated black woman athlete gets to lecture other black women about cheating while her own timeline is on fire. And for the whole system, the podcasters, the blogs, the softball interviews, this is about whether anybody in hip-hop media still asks a real question. By the end of this video, you will have seen the receipts, the rings, the dates, and the contradictions laid end to end, and you will never hear the phrase, "We were a private couple," the same way again. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me set the table properly, because some of you are new here and the rest of you need the full picture refreshed before we go digging. Claressa Shields, the self-proclaimed GWT, two-time Olympic gold medalist, undisputed champion across multiple weight classes, one of the most accomplished fighters, male or female, of this entire era. Inside the ring, the resume is untouchable. Outside the ring, we are dealing with a completely different fighter, one who keeps walking into verbal knockouts she sets up herself. Papoose, the Brooklyn lyricist, has been married to Remy Ma for the better part of 2 decades. They were the love and hip-hop era's black love poster couple. The man famously held his wife down through a prison bid. They renewed vows on television. They have a child together. Whatever was happening inside that house, the public-facing brand was loyalty itself. Then there's Tony Rich, the man who was, by Claressa Shields' own YouTube channel's description, her fiancé as late as May of 2024. Remember that name. Pin it to the wall. Tony Rich matters enormously to this story, and almost nobody in the interview circuit has asked about him once. The timeline the couple wants you to accept goes like this. Claressa and Papoose met for the very first time on July 6, 2024, at the Shakur Stevenson fight in Newark. A handshake. A hello. Nothing more. Then friendship, then love, and they were, in her words, a private couple from around August, until Remy Ma blew the whole thing up in December of 2024 by leaking text messages to her 10 million followers. That is the authorized biography. That is the version they have carried from Tamron Hall to Angela Yee to Ken Newton's couch. The problem is that the unauthorized biography, the one written by timestamps, fight dates, social media posts, and Claressa's own mouth across a dozen interviews, tells a completely different story. And the stakes of that gap are enormous. Musically and culturally, Papoose has staked his entire public identity on being the loyal husband archetype. If the timeline is rotten, that brand is a costume. Financially, Claressa had a biopic, The Fire Inside, hitting theaters in December of 2024, the exact month this scandal detonated. And studio publicists do not enjoy their inspirational sports movie star trending as an alleged homewrecker. Reputationally, she has positioned herself as a truth-teller who calls out cheating in other women. So if her own foundation is fabricated, everything she has said about everybody else collapses with it. This is not gossip. This is a forensic audit of a public narrative. And the first question that audit has to answer is simple. What did she actually say on camera when someone finally asked her a direct question? So let's go to the surface, the stuff anybody with a screen can verify. Exhibit 1. The Cam Newton interview, the sit-down that was supposed to rehabilitate her image and instead did more damage than everything that came before it. Kim asked her the simplest question in the world. Was he married? And Claressa Shields answered, yeah, but I need you to watch how she answered it. The eyes shift. The face tenses. The water bottle comes up. She grabs at the chair. Listen, I am not a body language scientist, but I have watched enough interviews to know what a relaxed person looks like when they answer a question with a clean conscience. If somebody asks you your favorite food, you say, pizza, and you move on with your life. You do not scrunch your face like the answer has a wrong option. Was he married is not a trick question, unless the truthful answer is the one thing you've been trying to launder for 6 months. In my opinion, that yeah was the most honest 2 seconds of the entire interview, and everything around it was a performance. Exhibit 2, The Ring. The viral photo from the Shakur Stevenson fight, July 6, 2024, Newark, the night of the supposed first meeting. There she is, posing with Papoose, smiling, and on her hand is the engagement ring Tony Rich gave her. This is not a rumor. This is not a screenshot of a screenshot. This is the photo that the blogs ran with, the photo she has never once addressed. Does everybody understand how crazy this actually is? The official story is, didn't know him, didn't know he was a rapper, never spoke to him before that night. And the official photo from that night shows a woman still publicly committed, publicly engaged to another man. 2 things can be true at once. Maybe the engagement was dying quietly. But you don't get to build a love story on top of a ring you haven't taken off and then act confused when the public does the math. Exhibit 3. The timeline she handed us herself. Claressa, in an attempt to dodge the homewrecker label, told the world there was no happy home to break up, that the alleged incident where Papoose reportedly confronted Easy the Block captain happened back in 2021 or 2022, years before she knew him. Fine. Let's take her at her word. July 29, 2023, long after that alleged 2021 to 2022 incident, where was Papoose? Ringside at the Errol Spence vs. Terrence Crawford fight at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, sitting with his wife Remy Ma, taking pictures with Chris Brown, and posting that he hadn't had that much fun in a long time, calling it an epic night, tagging his wife. That is not a separated man. That is a husband at a super fight doing husband things, 11 months after the marriage was supposedly dead. I covered that fight. I remember exactly when it happened. The receipts have dates, and the dates don't lie, people do. Exhibit 4, March 31st, 2023. The Drew Barrymore Show. Papoose posts about watching his beautiful wife and their daughter join Mary J. Blige on set. Didn't they look phenomenal? #Black Love. Again, this is after the alleged Easy the Block captain incident that Claressa cites as the moment the marriage was over. So by her own telling, she stepped into a situation where the man was still publicly celebrating his wife on national television, still wearing her tattoo on his arm, still leaving every post up, still attending red carpets hand in hand. Nobody outside that household knew of any marital problems. It was not public knowledge, which means one of 2 things. Either they were trying to work it out, or they were hiding the damage, and in both cases, that is precisely the moment where a woman with 2 gold medals, a movie deal, and everything to lose is supposed to say, clean up your situation, and then call me. That call never came. Instead, the DM came. And oh, do I have more. Because if you think the ring photo was bad, wait until I tell you who else was ringside at that Spence Crawford fight in Vegas, and what Claressa Shields texted Remy Ma 2 days after it. The Shinikika defenders are really not going to like this section, and the She Did Nothing Wrong brigade in the comments. I can already hear you typing, but before you hit send, sit with what's coming. Because the paper trail is about to go from embarrassing to indefensible. Let's get into the cultural layer, the insider receipts, the leaked messages, the interview slip-ups that the people closest to this story accidentally handed us. First, the Vegas texts. When Remy Ma leaked the messages in December, the internet focused on the drama. I focused on the dates. In those leaked texts, there's a message from Claressa dated July 31st, 2023, 2 days after the Spence Crawford fight, asking Remy Ma, "Are you still in Vegas, Remy?" Remy replies that she left early Sunday, mad she missed her. Claressa, dang. Now think about what that means. Claressa Shields was at that fight. Papoose was at that fight. Remy was at that fight. And days later, Claressa is in Remy's inbox asking if she's still in town. You can take what you want from that. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she wanted fashion tips again, because yes, this is the same woman who was in Remy's DMs for fashion advice before she ended up with Remy's husband. But at minimum, it proves she was moving in the couple's orbit, watching them, in contact with the wife, a full year before the supposed first meeting with the husband. And then she sat on Cam Newton's couch and said she didn't know who he was. Come on. Second receipt, the October 15th, 2022 mention. This one is a masterclass in oversharing. Papoose went on Vlad TV to prove the relationship was innocent, and to do it, he showed a DM from Claressa dated July 7th, 2024. It was nice meeting you. Case closed, right? Except the man didn't crop his screenshot properly, and sitting right above that July message was his own story mention of Claressa Shields from October 15th, 2022, with hearts on it, posted after she beat Savannah Marshall in London. His explanation, he was just a fan, he shows love to all fighters. And honestly, that part might even be true. But here's where it falls apart. Claressa herself, on a separate interview, confirmed the receipt. She said, and I'm paraphrasing her own words, that Papoose had a video where he watched her beat Savannah Marshall and was cheering for her, that he'd already been a fan. She knew about the 2022 post. She remembered it. Which means in July of 2024, when she shook his hand and claimed she didn't know who he was, didn't even know he was a rapper, she had already seen this man publicly celebrating her victories 2 years earlier. You cannot unknow someone you have already acknowledged. The lie isn't that they met in July. The lie is the amnesia. Third, the private couple confession. This is the clip that broke the internet's patience. Claressa, on a podcast, explained that Remy caught Papoose on the phone with her and leaked everything, and then she said it. We were a private relationship since around August. Around that time. August. She stuttered through it, said it twice, and moved on, but I froze the tape, and you should too. Because she also told Cam Newton that her non-negotiable was that Papoose stayed on the phone with her all day, and they went to sleep on the phone every night, and that they did that for 6 months before the infamous phone call that got them exposed. 6 months. They were exposed in December of 2024. 6 months before December is June. June of 2024. She claims she met the man on July 6, 2024. So the 6-month phone courtship started a month before the meeting that she says started everything? Which calendar are we using? Does everybody understand how insane this is? And remember, Papoose posted Tony, it's our anniversary, referencing the Shakur fight date. How is the day you supposedly met a stranger your anniversary? Unless it wasn't the first meeting at all. And fourth, the man nobody asks about. Tony Rich. While Claressa was allegedly building this private relationship, her fiancé was living an entirely different reality in public. May 17, 2024, her own YouTube channel posts, with fiancé Tony Rich hitting the pads. May 31st, she posts date day was fun with my man, hashtag fiancé, hashtag relationship. April 20th, they're at the Barclays Center together for Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. July 22nd, after the Shakur fight, after the supposed meeting, after the nightly phone calls have begun, Tony Rich is on social media organizing a bus from Detroit to Flint for her upcoming fight, reserving seats, raffling floor tickets for her event. He's booking Lloyd for her victory after party. And on August 21st, 2024, the same month she now says she was a private couple with Papoose, Tony Rich posts heart eyes and love you, Claressa Shields after her win. In August. She told the world she was coupled up with Papoose in August while her fiancé was publicly telling her he loved her in August. Both men were at the same fight for her in July, one with free tickets she gave him, one organizing the bus. Now, to be fair, let me steelman the other side for a moment. Maybe the engagement was on and off, maybe Tony knew more than we think, maybe everyone here was an adult making messy choices. Fine. But that's not the story she sold. She sold innocence. She sold, I didn't break up anything. And every receipt from her own corner says otherwise. And now I need you to lock in, because we're leaving the gossip layer. What comes next is why this story is bigger than one relationship. This is about the machine. Because here is what the blogs will never tell you. This scandal was not an accident of the heart. It was, in my analysis, a brand management decision that failed. Look at the structure. In 2024, Claressa Shields was not just a boxer, she was a corporate asset entering her most valuable window ever. The Fire Inside, a major motion picture about her life, was set for a December 2024 release. Movie studios sell inspirational arcs, the girl from Flint who conquered the world. What that arc cannot survive is its star trending as the other woman in a hip-hop marriage 2 weeks before opening weekend. So, what do you do when you're a public figure carrying a relationship that cannot survive daylight? You do exactly what she described doing. You keep it private. Listen to how she framed it. She wanted to be with him privately, and if they broke up, they'd break up privately. That is not romance language. That is crisis PR language. That is the vocabulary of someone managing disclosure risk. We weren't supposed to be public, she said it herself more than once. The privacy wasn't modesty. It was the strategy. And when Remy Ma lit the match in December, Claressa's first reaction wasn't heartbreak, it was, in her own retelling, "You just gonna blow up my spot?" Who talks like that? People with clean hands don't have a spot to blow up. That single sentence told on the entire operation. Second systemic angle. The interview circuit is broken, and this story proves it. Claressa Shields sat across from some of the biggest platforms in the culture, Tamron Hall, Angela Yee, Cam Newton, and across all those hours. How many times was she asked about Tony Rich? 0. Not once. The fiancé. The man organizing her fight buses while she was allegedly on the phone every night with a married man. Cam Newton got closer than anyone. He at least asked, was he married? But even he let the timeline contradictions float by untouched. And this is the part that should bother every fan of this culture. The podcast economy runs on access, and access journalism means the guest controls the perimeter. You want the exclusive? You don't ask the question that ends the friendship. Meanwhile, independent creators, channels like this one, do the actual forensic work, pull the timestamps, line up the calendars, and then watch bigger platforms with lower audio quality steal the sauce and repackage it. That is the media ecosystem in 2026 in one paragraph. The interviews are sponsored content with questions, and the investigation got outsourced to YouTube. Third angle. The receipts era has changed the physics of celebrity deception, and nobody told Claressa Shields. There was a time when a public figure could control a narrative through sheer repetition. Say it enough times on enough couches, and it becomes true. That era is dead. Every celebrity now generates a permanent, time-stamped, searchable paper trail, posts they forgot about, stories they didn't crop, captions with dates embedded, fiancés with their own accounts. Papoose tried to prove innocence with one screenshot and accidentally revealed a 2022 connection. Claressa tried to prove innocence with a no happy home to break up defense and accidentally gave us the 2021 to 2022 dates that put Papoose back at ringside with his wife in 2023. She tried to prove devotion with 6 months on the phone and accidentally moved the relationship's start date before the meeting she claims started everything. Every single alibi this couple has offered contains the evidence that destroys it. That is not bad luck. That is what happens when a story was reverse engineered to fit a conclusion instead of built from the truth. The truth doesn't need version control. Lies do. And the version control on this one has failed publicly, repeatedly, on the biggest platforms in the culture. Which brings us to the truth bomb, the thing this entire video has been building toward, the conclusion the evidence forces on you whether you want it or not. Here it is, stated plainly, based on her own words, across her own interviews. Claressa Shields' relationship with Papoose could not have started when she says it started, the way she says it started. The evidence does not suggest a love story that began with a handshake on July 6th. It suggests overlapping relationships sustained by deception on two fronts at once. On one side, Papoose, a man still legally married, still married to this day, reportedly sleeping on the couch of the home he shared with Remy Ma, telling a younger woman whatever married men in his position have always told younger women. It's over. We've been over. She did it first. And on the other side, Claressa, engaged, wearing the ring, letting Tony Rich promote her fights, book her after parties, and post "I love you" in August, while by her own admission she had not missed a single day of talking to Papoose since July 6th. Her own words, "Me and him haven't missed a day of talking to each other since we met. Every single day." While the other man raffled floor seats to her fight. Think about what is being shown to you versus what is being told to you. And the 6-month problem is the kill shot. I want to walk through this slowly, because it deserves the wait. She told Cam Newton the nightly phone arrangement lasted 6 months before the exposure. The exposure happened in December 2024, Remy Ma leaking the texts, the messy public exchange, the whole timeline. 6 months back from December lands in June 2024. The claimed first meeting is July 6, 2024. Those two statements cannot both be true. Either the relationship predates the Newark handshake, which means the entire "I didn't know him, didn't know he was a rapper" performance was theater, or the 6-month claim is fabricated to make the relationship sound more established and legitimate than it was. There is no third option. One of her own stories eats the other. And notice which lie serves which purpose. The "we met in July" story exists to prove she's not a homewrecker. The 6 months on the phone story exists to prove the relationship is deep and real. She needed both. She cannot have both. That is the whole scandal in one sentence. Then layer on the final contradiction, the one that should end the debate permanently. She claimed total ignorance of Papoose in July 2024, yet confirmed, in her own voice, that she knew about his 2022 story post celebrating her Savannah Marshall win. She was at the same 2023 Vegas fight as him and his wife. She was in his wife's DMs before and after that weekend. The idea that this man walked up to her in Newark as a complete stranger is, in my opinion, the single least believable sentence uttered on a podcast this decade. And this, to me, is the most important thing. The lies here are not even sophisticated. They're the lies of someone who has never been checked, surrounded by interviewers who wouldn't check her, talking to a public she assumed couldn't count. But the public can count. The public counted to 6. So where does that leave everybody? Let me tell you where it leaves the people who actually matter in this story. It leaves the receipts undefeated. That's the hero of the story, not a person, a principle. In every era of this culture, the truth has had to fight uphill against fame, against access media, against fan armies, against money, and in every era, it eventually wins, because timestamps don't have publicists. Look at the wreckage pattern. Every attempt to control this narrative made it worse. The Tamron Hall appearance produced the ticket admission. The Angela Yee sit-down produced the Savannah Marshall receipt confirmation. The Cam Newton interview produced the the 6-month math and the shifty eyes. The Vlad screenshot produced the 2022 mention. For platforms, for attempts at cleanup, for self-inflicted wounds. Meanwhile, look at the 2 people who didn't run to a microphone. Remy Ma, whatever you believe about her own alleged missteps in that marriage, and I've reported on those too, made one decisive move, dropped the texts and let the document speak. And Tony Rich, the man with the most legitimate grievance in this entire saga, responded to being played by writing, and I quote, "I don't even hate Claressa Shields after she played me. Spread love, not hate." Do you understand the discipline that takes? While one side was doing a forgiveness tour of every couch in America, the man who actually got wronged posted one graceful sentence and went back to his life. One person in this story wrecked 2 homes and called it love. The other one lost a fiancé and called it a lesson. That's the contrast. That's the whole story in one line. Integrity is quiet. Deception needs a press run. And for the culture, this is the course correction working exactly like it's supposed to. The fans, the same fans she lectured, the same black women she clapped back at for asking fair questions, did the thing the media refused to do. They checked. Miss Shanikika asked one pertinent question, "How long are you prepared to be with somebody else's husband?" and got called names and allegedly threatened with arena bans for it. But that question turned out to be the only one that mattered, and the timeline answered it. The right side of the story is winning not because anyone got punished, but because the record got corrected. The evidence speaks for itself. It always does. And listen, this is only the start. There are 2 developments in this story you need to be tracking right now. First, the divorce filing. Papoose reportedly filed after the December exposure, after, not before, which tells its own story, and as that process moves through the courts, filings become public documents. Dates, claims, timelines. If you think the podcast receipts were damaging, wait until the receipts have case numbers. Second, the interview cycle is not over. Claressa Shields has a career to protect and a narrative to salvage, which means more couches, more questions, more opportunities to add new dates to a timeline that already contradicts itself 3 different ways. Every future interview is another data point, and I will be here lining up the calendar every single time. So if you made it to this point in the video, you're amazing and you already know what to do. And before you go, let me tell you what I'm building next, because the timeline video is the one this entire saga has been begging for. Every post, every date, every fight weekend, Tony Rich, Papoose, Remy Ma, the Vegas texts, the ring photos, all of it laid out on one board, month by month, from the Savannah Marshall mention in 2022 to the December exposure. When you see the whole thing arranged in sequence, when you watch the engagement ring appear and disappear across the same months the private couple was forming, you are going to understand why no interview answer was ever going to save this story. That's the video where the picture completes itself. And, trust me, you do not want to be the one who hears about it secondhand.